Hello, this is Melinda at Paris Living. I hope everyone is well. First off, Happy New Year to everyone watching. I hope you survived the holidays intact. It's been a really long time since my last video, so I decided to do a year in review for 2023. A year that was very newsworthy, to say the least, and world events did impact the Paris property market. So I'm going to try to go over the main things as succinctly as possible, but if you don't subscribe to our newsletter, you can click on the link below and get the full exciting version with like graphs and other fun stuff. So the main themes of the last year were massive inflation, interest rates, and a sort of supply-demand gridlock. High inflation in the Eurozone triggered the European Central Bank to control said inflation by hiking interest rates, and that heavily impacted the Paris property market by contracting both demand and supply. The main issues on the demand side have been quite straightforward. As interest rates go up, there are less buyers who are able to afford a loan. And then there's just simply those who don't want to borrow at higher rates, and that's more of a psychological barrier. There are also cash buyers who wouldn't necessarily be directly affected by higher interest rates, but they're still waiting in the wings to see if prices will continue to move in their favor, and I can't really argue there. On the supply side, there's also been a contraction. There's much less inventory because most people, if they don't absolutely have to sell, don't want to sell in current market conditions. We see a lot of sellers who are holding on to their homes because they don't want to trade in their 1% mortgages for a 4+% mortgage. And then there are those who own their properties outright but don't want to sell in current market conditions. So what I've seen on the ground is that the inventory available is mostly from people who have their backs against the wall, going through a divorce, estate sale, etc. And the quality of the inventory has not been great, slim pickings. Effectively, we've seen a contraction of demand, but so also of supply, and that's created this kind of gridlock. Is it officially a buyer's market? I say yes. Up until the beginning of 2023, the market was very resilient, continued to be a seller's market well into the first quarter, but that changed in the second and successive quarters last year. However, the European Central Bank indicated back in September that they did not foresee any future rate hikes, and that has held so far. And then in December, the Fed in the US announced that they were holding rates steady and even signaled that there would be rate cuts to come in 2024. That'll depend on jobs numbers and other stats before there's any real commitment. And the ECB, for their side, has rebuffed speculation that they're as dovish on interest rates in 2024. But there is broad consensus that since the Eurozone inflation rate is just under 3%, that they will hold rate steady and maybe follow suit with the Fed this year. So a couple of observations, first of all, for those would-be sellers who've been holding off on selling their properties and waiting for better conditions. There's only so long that they can do so. There are growing families, for example, who need an extra room. They're going to only be able to wait so long. And then there are others for whom the carrying costs will eventually become too heavy a burden, and they will also have to liquidate. Also, the current interest rate of approximately 4% for fiscal residents is slowly but surely settling in as the new normal. And it is very important to note that for borrowers as well as cash buyers, any nominal losses in terms of higher monthlies for borrowers or maybe a not quite ideal exchange rate for overseas buyers, these are mitigated to a significant extent by lower prices and good maneuverability in negotiations. So the upshot is that we are in buyer's market. We expect the volume of transactions to stay low through January, and then I expect to see an uptick in inventory in early February and March, and fingers crossed, some indication from the ECB that they will be bringing down rates in 2024. Regardless, activity should be definitely more robust, as it seems like this is finally the beginning of the end of the fight against inflation in the Eurozone and in the States. So it's a good time to take advantage of the buyer's market before it starts to perhaps, I think, rebound late 2024. Take care. DM me if you want to discuss. I'm always happy to chat. Bonne année à tous et à toutes.